Slow turn me down.
Slow turn me down.
I'm more of a concern.
You're more concerned. So, all right, a little background. So, John and I met a while back.
That's who you said.
So, just, we were going to talk about topics that are hot button topics. We'll eventually expand this out into different topics and look at your questions and call in. John's friends will be able to do it. But I don't have to use it.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Welcome to We Might Disagree with Brian and John. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have two special guests with us tonight. We're happy to talk about. I'd like to introduce Andrew Pawloski. How you doing, buddy? My man.
Good.
It's a nephew of John over here. And we got Robert Riviano over here. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
So, we're going to talk a little bit of trade, a little bit of China, a little bit maybe into some patents, as I've learned a little bit about patents here. We're going to talk about Trump. So, we put John in a corner for a reason tonight. He's actually in the corner. Look, he's biting at the chops. So anyway, so you can call in 465-9850, extension 899. I believe the phones are working. You can question me on Facebook. You can text me if you have my phone number, and we'll try to get your questions, okay? So trade, Trump, China, patents, John's in the corner. We got it all covered, all right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Robert, tell us a little bit about your background and why we have you on the show.
Cool, my background. Well, I'm a licensed master plumber. I'm a general contractor, mechanical engineer. I do quite a bit of patent work. In fact, my newest patent just issued last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. For a keyless locking deadbolt. And I've spent extensive time in China with different manufacturers and been hired by companies to work with manufacturers in China over the last 12 years? 14?
Or more. Probably more than that, about 15, I think.
I think so.
Man,
Yep.
you speak Chinese?
Absolutely not.
That's a hard language to learn.
Well, there's a reason not to. And that is, no, when you're negotiating, you start talking, oh, I'm going to learn Chinese. Well, they can use that for an excuse for, well, you said this when you meant to say something else.
Oh, see.
Yeah.
So
So you got we got a little
English
bit of John
only.
and a little bit of the lawyer stuff. I like that.
And there actually are, the language depends a lot on inflection and pronunciation. So if you don't do it exactly right, you can completely change the context of
like
something.
each kanji of their language has a minimum of 3 meanings. So trying to write Chinese is
That'd be
even
very
worse.
difficult.
Yes, it can be reinterpreted.
Yeah, just to get the English right on my shirts and stuff. So Trump brings a lot of stuff in from China. He's been taking a lot of slack. I know Hillary's been jumping on him on that. And to me, it just makes good sense to do it in China versus here because that's the way the system's set up right now. So a lot of people who tune into our show may or may not understand what that means. Why would he, why is that a bad thing? And, why is he able to do that?
What's your specific question?
So specifically, why would Trump have his ties made in China instead of the United States?
Or
'Cause that's
Mexico
or
whatever.
Mexico. He has them, and we all know it's for the trade.
And I think
people don't understand.
well,
Go
I
ahead.
think what Brian's really asking you is, answer the question to the person that says, you know what, when Trump does that, he's putting American workers out of work.
That's what I'm trying to.
And how would you respond to that?
The easy response to that is first you'd have to find a company that would make the tie, and then the poor company has to go through an environmental study and a planning review study, and if they don't pick the right law firm to represent them for the environmental impact study, and it just goes down the list. I'd love to make my product here in the United States, but it would take a company 10 years just to get through the bureaucracy to set up a factory.
So it's not just a wage, then. In
Right.
fact,
It's an unfair disadvantage. You're actually, the way the system is set up, you're actually better off going overseas to get it made so you don't have to put up with the bureaucracy. But to me, my opinion on it is our government is making so much money off of taxes and duties, they don't mind you leaving.
So we kind
Because
of
they
talked
make
about
more
that.
money. They make more money that way than if the product was made in the United States.
See, and that's where I wanted to get to. So
Right.
that's a perfect lead into. We kind of talked about this, John, before the show started. We were kind of talking about. So why don't you kind of give us the easy understanding version of that? Because it seems like it get very complex quick.
Okay. XYZ Lot Company used to make their all their hardware, lock hardware and doorknobs here in the United States, okay, they're gonna have a 60% savings or 70% savings moving it offshore. Okay, they don't have to put up with workman's comp, they don't have to put up with OSHA, EPA, all, you know, the myriad of, and they're saving so much money, and the government says, hey, we're gonna hit you with 15% taxes and duties. They don't care if it's 25%.
Still cheaper.
They're still saving 45%. So they don't care. The government's making a windfall on the taxes and duties of everything that's coming back into the country, and it's not reported as part of the tax collection of the country. They always talk about income tax
Correct.
and corporate income tax.
Correct.
They don't talk about this other part. So for me, I tried for 4 years to get my lock made here in the United States. And I was actually told by lock companies, you're never going to get it made here. Go to China or this other place. And when I went to China, what I learned about their system is, let's take like the St. Louis, St. Charles, Alton metropolitan area.
Right.
Well, that's the lock area for door hardware.
The equivalent in China would be
Right.
that
Right.
size geographic area.
Springfield, Missouri would be chandeliers. Chicago might be cars, and they're built, and they won't even let the manufacturers make locks in other areas.
Really?
Small parts and components, but it's
That's interesting.
it's easy to get things made there because little shops can make parts for it. It doesn't have to be a big factory. A little shop, and I took John to China with me. You have a little shop that's no bigger than this studio. They'll have a stamp press machine right in the middle of it, and all they're doing is making part. They take a basket, you know, and all these different little independent companies are making the parts, and then they take it to an assembly center. It's actually amazing.
Very efficient.
It's the way the United States was
So
when
that's
I
the
was
way
a
we
kid.
used to do it, and it's like,
Right.
an auto manufacturer plant to me.
Right.
And you
So-
basically walk behind the scenes of a lot of these manufacturing facilities, and you've got 60, 70, 80 people bent over these buckets and putting on one little widget here and
Right.
there, and then the next person's got another one, and the next person's got another one.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching 60 Minutes a couple of months ago, and they had the CEO of Apple on there.
Right.
And he was kind of under attack by CBS, by 60 Minutes for, keeping money overseas, but having a lot of stuff done in China. And he said something I found very interesting. He said, you could take all the vocational trade people in America and put them in one room. And he said, you couldn't fill a building over in China. And he said that we've lost our vocational trades.
Mm-hmm.
And that just resonated with me because it's like everybody, that's why everybody wants to be here, and I'm raising my hand high in case you're on the video, but you got to start here, and not everybody can be up here.
Well, college number one isn't for everyone.
Correct.
Okay.
I agree with that 100%.
And there's a stigma about it, which I don't get, because any good plumber can make $50,000-$60,000 a year.
Or more.
Definitely more than that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be conservative.
Yeah, you're being conservative. Must be conservative. Because we're only going to report on taxes
but,
that much, right?
Anything like that, carpenters and everything. And but Trump, I don't have to like Trump to vote for him.
Right.
I have to make a decision who to vote for based on who's actually going to bring about true change and level the playing field with different countries.
So when
Okay?
he says he's going to level the playing field on trade, what's he referring to? How's he going to do that?
Well, there's a lot of ways to do it. Number one, we were talking about trade deficit before the
Right.
show as an example, and it's a lot bigger than this.
It's an easy
If
number,
we're
though.
buying $1 billion worth of product from China, they need to buy $1 billion of product from us and not let it set and come up with bureaucratic rules. All you have to do with China is say, same rules. And then they'll come right back to the bargaining table. I have a lot of friends and engineers and testing companies, and they speak very freely when they're out of China in Taiwan or Hong Kong. And it's like, they really look at their own government as a paper tiger.
Really?
All you'd have to do is say boo, and they'll say, okay, but as long as they can take advantage of you, they will. That's why I'm considered a very respected negotiator when I go to China, because I give them absolutely zero tolerance.
So I guess for me, and the question that I would have on it is why would our government do that? And maybe that's a better answer for you, John. I mean,
Taxes and duties.
yeah, but if you can get the
make a
money off
fortune.
an income tax, and
I think that's a great question, but I think we probably need to do it after
we
the
do,
break.
but our producer's not here.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't
So we
wanna-
get to keep going?
We get to keep going this time. Just for the record, though, we were going to take our break on time.
Yes.
Andrew's over there giving me the signal.
That's right.
Good job, my man. But our producer is left the
Okay.
building for a
So,
few minutes.
so we're going to run long.
We're gonna run a little long.
But
And
hey.
he can hear us up there, so he'll be on.
John can always
Yeah.
talk.
No, we
Oh,
do,
absolutely.
and we do. We get going sometimes. We want to try to do them every 10 minutes as possible. But I don't know. To me, it just blows my mind that we would allow this. If you think about
Well,
NAFTA and just,
Right.
it's just.
The problem that America has is we're the only ones that are playing by the rules. Now, in terms of pure trade policy, free trade does make the most sense historically and economically. The problem is when you're the only country that believes that and plays by those rules. So I do think that free trade is ideally the best system. So the problem that we have is we're not exerting enough power and influence over foreign countries to get them to basically have a free trade system. And as Robert's pointed out, we don't really have a free trade system. We have a system of tariffs and stuff where the government basically gets somewhat of a slush fund from all the things that are imported. There's John.
That's just
So-
crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess we should go to our break.
We will. We'll
and
take a
go
quick
back.
break.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Thank you.
At Midwest Members Credit Union, you are important.
We work hard to ensure you have the best banking experience possible.
Whether you are inquiring about opening a savings account or wanting to learn more about a loan, our professionals are here to help you with any questions, and we will walk you through every step of the process. Since opening our doors in 1935, we've never forgotten that our members are our most important asset, which is why we continue to excel.
For all your banking needs, Midwest Members is the one place to go.
At 4204 Main Street Brewing Company, we believe that great food paired with our own locally brewed craft beer is a staple in life, and we want to share that experience. At 4204, you will find a menu that complements our very own award-winning craft beers, and we serve the area's best 100% certified Angus steaks and burgers. You can find us in both Alton by the Alton Square Mall and at our original location at 4204 West Main Street in Belleville. Come visit 4204 Main Street Brewing Company today for an experience you won't soon forget.
Why should you bring your vehicle to Quick Lane at Roberts Motors? If you never need an appointment, just drive on in. Quick Lane has the guaranteed lowest tire prices around. Plus, we perform a multi-point inspection of the critical items on your vehicle at no charge every time you visit. Ford, Chevy, Toyota, or any other make, Quick Lane can service it. We're even open on Saturdays. Stop by Quick Lane at Roberts Motors today. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane.
Roku is a small device that connects to your TV for instant streaming over your internet connection. Not only can you watch Netflix, Hulu, and over 600 other channels, you can also stream RBTV straight to your television. Search for RiverBender on Roku.com to subscribe to our free channel.
Okay, and we're back. Thank you for hanging on. We might disagree. We got Brian and John with Andrew and Robert with us today. So we're talking trade, Trump, China, and we're going to get into some more trade and some patents. So patents are a big thing. I've had a personal friend of mine that's been that developed a patent, and China's really done them over on it. Robert, you've got some firsthand experience of that
Sure.
lovely warming feeling from China, how they give you with your patents. You kind of talked to us about how the patents don't really help all the red tape you have to go through here in America. So can you talk a little bit about patents in China and some of your great experiences with that?
Basically, in the hardware industry, which is in the Zhongshan area, they have these monthly meetings where all the managers of the different factories come to this meeting, and basically it's whose technology can we mimic now? And it's a very organized system of how do we steal technology. Like on one of my patents for a deadbolt, they'll come back to me and say, oh, we were designing your deadbolt and we came up with this really cool idea that'll be an improvement on it. Well, if you don't know what's going on, what they're doing is they're coming up with this improvement, and then they go around you back to the U.S. Patent Office and say, we are a contributor to the patent. Even if it's 1%, we're on, and I'm 99% of the design, we are on equal 50-50 ground in order to compete in the market.
Isn't that crazy?
It's totally crazy. And we let them do it again and again and again. So that's where I say, I draw the line. I don't, even if it's a good idea, I say no.
So even if
No.
it makes your product better, you're still going to turn it down.
You have to say no. And now, you always have like, okay, we have an agreement that clearly states any improvement that they make belongs to me. Well, that works in U.S. law,
Not in China.
but not in China law.
No.
They're making every patent that I have is actively being produced and sold anywhere they can sell it.
Including here in the United States.
No.
No?
I'm
The reason why
very
they can't do
vigilant.
it, the reason why they can't do it in the United States, and why U.S. patent law is important and plays an important role, is that we're still the biggest economy, we're the biggest market. Under U.S. patent law, if you infringe my patent and you sell your goods in the United States, I can get a court order to grab your product off the shelf. If I can prove that you've infringed my patent, I can keep your product.
Well, not exactly. Not to dispute you. What I have
No,
to
go
do.
ahead, dispute him. It's all
Oh, I
right.
love it. But what
It's
if you're
okay.
if company B is because I went through this, I had to go all the way to California and tell a company not to sell this product in the United States, and I found out that I was actually in trouble for doing that. What I'm supposed to do is through my patent lawyer notify them, said, hey, you're infringing on my patent.
Cease and desist.
There's no cease and desist at this point. We need to go into negotiation to where I am getting my royalty, and you're going to have to pay me a fee for it. And then you can ask the court for a cease and desist. It can take anywhere from 30 days to 30 months.
So
Now,
that's only here in the United
but
States,
see-
though, right?
Oh,
That's
no,
not
no, no.
worldwide.
It's really bad for them if we win, which we will. But meanwhile, they're diluting the product, because if someone has a weaker version of mine, a cheap knockoff,
Right.
it hurts my credibility of who I'm selling to.
Oh, yeah.
And then how do I collect my triple damages? Because John is right. They're brutal. Okay? If you're infringing on a patent and they can prove it, and you go through the legal bureaucracy of doing it, the standard is triple damages of exponential numbers. So how do I collect it from a Chinese company? Now, that's where
Yeah.
Trump comes in. Well, China government's going to have to pay for it as part of our trade thing, and compensate the company and the individuals and the licensors and licensees.
And see, this is what I wanted to get into, because I think, John, you and I have gone back and forth on Trump a little bit, and I
Right.
think he's brilliant. I mean,
He's a good businessman.
he is. I mean, he's got a bad.
He's brash.
But it's one thing. It's one thing to be brash. It's one thing to say I'm
doesn't
going to build a
explain-
wall and all
right.
that stuff.
He doesn't explain it.
What I want to know though is, okay, so if you're going to go into basically a trade war with China, and you're going to require China to pay all
When did
these,
he say a trade war?
well, in
Well, he
essence,
didn't.
that's what you're talking about.
He didn't.
But if you're
It
going to
could end up
require, right, if you're going to require China to pay something, you also have to remember that they buy a very large portion of our debt. Now, I personally would like to see China buy less and less of our debt, but until we get balanced budgets and so forth, that's not realistic.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah, that's a whole other show.
Yep.
But
Right there. I mean, it really
That's why
is.
you shouldn't have added $12 trillion to it to the last 7 years. Democrats.
and we can talk about that, which and I've been critical of Obama for
No,
failing to
yeah.
address the budget, but also if
Yeah.
we want to be real about it,
The
you have to look at the
Republican
price tags.
Yeah.
You've got the war in Iraq, you've got the war in Afghanistan, you've got the basically the pharmaceutical bill that was passed and not paid for. All those
There's a lot
things
of-
contribute.
a lot of things contribute.
But certainly Obama's programs have
watch.
certainly added to it. So I frankly, my analysis of who's responsible for the last 8, 10, 12 years of deficit, they're both equally responsible.
I would agree. Yeah, I don't think it's one party versus the other, because if you've had a Republican president, you've had a Democrat Congress, you've had a Democrat president, you've had a Republican Congress. So it goes back in
George
time.
W. Bush did nothing on trade deficit or
He
patent
didn't.
infringement.
He did not.
Nothing.
None. Yeah, he
No
did not.
president has in
Well, I think that's the
Since
fascination with
NAFTA.
Trump, and I think people hear the word trade and bring manufacturing back, and I think they don't understand what that means, and that's why I think having you on the show today is great, because you're going to explain some of that. I mean, I'm even learning some of this stuff. It's pretty good. So, what was I going to say? Going to go to break yet? Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so trade. You talked to me, and I don't know if you want to use the manufacturer's name, a car manufacturer.
Let's not.
Let's not name them. But talk about what. Tell me what. Tell the audience what you told me.
A major manufacturer went to China at China's request because China wanted to build these cars for this American manufacturer. So they got together. They got all the blueprints, all the plans, all the engineering, all the contracts signed. They built the plant. But what the American car manufacturer didn't know was China was duplicating the plant about 50 kilometers away. Part for part could be interchanged. And they said, no, it's not. This is an improvement.
And there's nothing.
And then it becomes, well, if you get no backbone from the United States government.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
This for the record, this is a large motor company.
Oh, of course.
In America.
All
it's one of the big three.
It's one of the big three.
It's one of the big
Exactly.
three.
But it goes on an ongoing, regular basis because in every industry over there, I happen to personally have met and know the director of basically like a trade organization association of the hardware industry. And I met the one in the LED industry, and I also met the one in the glass industry. Okay, and basically they look at me and they go, "Why is your government?" Well, of course we're going to take advantage. You would take advantage of us if you could. Why shouldn't we take advantage of you?
Okay, well, with that, we're going to go to break. So you're listening to We Might Disagree with Brian and John, special guests Andrew and Robert. We will be right back.
All right, sir, we finished all the services on your car. They'll take it over for your complimentary car wash, and they'll call you when it's ready.
Roku is a small device that connects to your TV for instant streaming over your internet connection. Not only can you watch Netflix, Hulu, and over 600 other channels, you can also stream RBTV straight to your television. Search for RiverBender on Roku.com to subscribe to our free channel.
Heart-pounding excitement is what you will find around every corner with the new Polaris Slingshot. It's like surfing pavement. After just one test drive, you will be ready to ditch the sports car, the Harley, or the sports bike and settle into the hottest thing in the street. With a 2.4-liter GM power plant churning out 173 horsepower, you will feel the adrenaline rush of a lifetime. Come on down to Midwest Motorsports on Route 3 in Hartwell, Illinois. We would love to take you for a ride.
I'll grab the birthday cake, you bring the gift, if you're sure she's ready.
She's 16, honey, and she's earned a set of keys.
She's studied and practiced, I know, but it's a big responsibility.
When you have a teen driver, it's good to know that Madison Mutual has the insurance coverage you need.
She's ready, and so are we. I talked to our Madison Mutual agent.
Call Barry Macias, your local independent insurance agent, at 467-2874.
The more life changes, the more you need Madison Mutual.
Hey, welcome back to We Might Disagree with Brian and John, special guests Andrew and Robert. So, went to break, coming back. So, we're going to talk a little bit about, we've been talking a little bit about trade, a little bit about patents, and we're talking about economy now. Kind of leads into some of the trade deficits talk. So, Robert, talk to us about ghost cities.
Ghost cities is something that's going on in China. We had our housing crash. China is going to be way past that because they build entire cities the size of downtown Chicago, without exaggeration, and nobody ever moves in. It's busy work for the people, so they're creating all this busy work with mass transit. It's like, I don't know what politician gets up to the podium and goes, you know, and Trump said it too, but so did, I think, the vice president and the president. Look at this great airport we have over here and the great, you know, rail systems and everything. Well, it's all part of busy work because their economy is actually so fragile. They're building these ghost cities, and you were going back like to the trade deficit.
Right.
It's like it would probably bankrupt them to level the playing field, and that's why they resist it. But
Robert,
it's just strictly busy work.
Who's paying for that busy work?
Everybody, and they're using our interest to do it. Like there's
so the debt they buy from us.
12 years ago, when I went there, they had several holidays. They have tripled the number of holidays to shut down factories to give people just like party time because it helps the economy.
So let me connect some dots to
Sure.
make sure I'm on the same page. So the debt that they buy from us,
Right.
and the interest we pay them,
Right.
they're using some of that money to build ghost cities to keep their people busy while
Right.
we have unemployment of 94 million people in America.
And one thing that you have to understand about China is that it is a growing economy. And before Nixon went there in the 70s, I mean, their manufacturing was woefully inadequate, and they were not a serious competitor in any way, shape, or form. Since then, they've obviously become a very strong economic power. But you have to understand that really only, and correct if I'm wrong in this, Robert, but I think like only 1 out of 10 workers lives in the cities. Most of the people live in rural areas, and they're on basically a starvation plane of existence,
Really?
without enough food, barely to survive. And so for these people, having a job in the city is very attractive. I mean, the wage differential between the farming and the city jobs is astronomical. So you have this migration of people from the farms to the city, but they also have this expectation. They also can see these skyscrapers that are essentially empty. And they're beautiful luxury places. You drive literally.
I never knew about
You
that.
get in your car and you can drive in China. Any direction, doesn't matter. You can drive for 45 minutes any direction, and you will see a city the size of New York City. And if you drive at night, you can see there's 2-3 lights on in a structure that has 500-600 units. It's unbelievable. But so you have a growing, it's very small, but you have a growing middle class in China. You have growing expectations to buy consumer goods like American cell phones and that sort of stuff. So you have a fair amount of people that are aspiring to become wealthy, but you've still got well over 90% of the country is in very abject poverty.
But this is what I like about
Let me get some of these pictures up on the page. That's amazing.
But China keeps their people working and keeps their people fed. Okay.
Well, they are communist. I mean, so they're going to do that.
They're communists, and I'm not saying they're not, but they do a better job of keeping people who want to work working, doing this busy work that's actually going to cause their economy to collapse worse than ours.
Yeah, at some point.
Well, one thing that people that they do in China, which would blow our minds here in America, and you know that bees are an issue that are very important, very passionate about. In China, they actually use human beings to do pollination in fields because they have that many people that they can actually have someone with a paintbrush painting pollen. That's
labor's cheap.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, labor's cheap too.
When they come from the country to like a factory, they have dormitories, they get a food allowance, they get a clothing allowance. Okay, so their income is virtually 100% banked.
Man, I couldn't live like that. I could not even imagine.
But imagine living in a city, and we're talking about not present day time, living on a farm 30, 40, 50, 60 miles out from a major city on a subsistence agricultural economy. You don't have electricity. You probably don't have running water. I mean, we're talking about the present day. We have people living in that kind of abject poverty.
So when we talk about Trump, last week we talked about Bernie, and Bernie's got a lot of ideas. Okay,
not all bad.
They're not all bad. I think we'd all agree with that, and they're honest ideas.
But see, that's the difference between the two parties. You're a conservative, acknowledging that some of Bernie's ideas actually have some. What I don't like about what I see between the two parties is it doesn't matter what the idea is. It's always a bad idea if it's coming out from a Republican.
Here's what's funny. So we had a comment on our Facebook page. What about somebody that's in the middle? And I kind of laugh because, I kind of see myself as a conservative individual, but I'm not really either or.
Okay.
I'm Hillary Clinton, the Clintons in general, President Obama, and President Obama's done some stuff. I can come up with 1 or 2 things I'm sure that are good. I can always find something good in somebody, but overall, I don't like the direction that the Democrat Party is moving the country. I'm not real thrilled with the Republicans either. I'll be honest with you, I'm not. I don't know the difference between the two.
But see, Bill Clinton had the perfect tagline in beating Bush. It's the economy, stupid. There was no respect in that.
Nope.
Okay, and it was good. Well, guess what this election's about? It's the economy, stupid. Okay, because it's either going to improve or it's going to get better.
Was it 1% growth this year, 2016?
I haven't seen the figures
It's
yet.
1%, I believe, that I heard today. 1% growth.
Yeah, because I'd like to come back to talk about that sometime.
Well, we can definitely probably do that.
Do that. But the biggest problem that China has, and every manufacturer I've talked to has said the same thing. In the last 8 years, they've gone from an average of a very rich 80% profit margin to 10.
To 10.
Okay, their economy is that squeaky tight. So it's a perfect opportunity for somebody just to get a little hardball, because the liberals want to say, oh, trade war, he's going to create a trade war. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Get excited.
No, it's called negotiation.
Yeah.
With, you know.
Well, they're definitely trying to demonize Trump. I mean, you look at the pictures they put on there. He's always got his hair flying over. And
his hair is always flying over.
They always go out of their way to pick the worst possible pictures.
They do. And
they never depicted Hillary as an old hag. Never.
It goes both ways.
But see, the same guy could have decided to run on the Democratic ticket, and he'd be the Messiah.
Yeah.
That's what's sad.
Well, their Messiah's in deep trouble. But anyway,
well, even this guy doesn't like his girlfriend Hillary.
Well, it's kind of hard to. I don't know. We'll have a show
I'm not a
with
big
Hillary.
fan of Hillary. I mean, but to me, the very fundamental question that differentiates Hillary from Trump is: you may not like the Clintons, you may think that there's corruption there, you may think there's cronyism there, but they know how to get things done, and they have a proven track record.
Yeah, the guy has NAFTA.
And Trump has not shown me in the political corridor, as opposed to the business corridor, that he knows how to get things done.
That's a
when
good
when
sign.
when you have a problem getting on the ballot places, when you have a problem getting through the process, in the caucuses, and having people put on the ballot to run as representatives for the caucuses, that shows me that you're not a serious candidate, that you don't understand the process, that you don't respect the process.
See, I'm just the opposite. That's what makes him a great candidate.
See, that's exactly.
He is not part of this cronyism.
But there has to be a base level of competence.
No, what runs this country? The government or the people?
The people.
Okay.
I think
what runs the country? The government or business, big and small? Business does.
Yeah.
So
Business small.
look at Trump, one individual. Look at all the different bureaucracies he has to put up with to put a golf course here, a building here, and this and that. I won't do
still
it.
run for office.
I won't do it. I mean, go to St. Louis County, they drive you nuts to pull a permit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay.
I'm not experiencing that myself. What I like about Trump, so John, on your part, here's my thing.
But they're supposed to be on our side.
Yeah, I don't think. You're right. He's had some troubles, but he's worked through them. Mm-hmm. He's a problem solver, man.
I don't think that he's shown that he's gotten smarter. I mean, I would be the first person to say, look, if he made some mistakes and he bounced back from them, I'd say, okay, the guy can learn from his mistakes, because everybody's going to make mistakes. Obama made them.
Well, yeah, Obama couldn't fill an auditorium for them. Remember all that?
There's all kinds of things, yeah.
Yeah,
Romney made mistakes. Hillary's made mistakes. Everybody's made mistakes.
Right, well, let's get
so
back
mistakes aren't the issue. But what I want to know is, did you learn from it? Did you learn anything?
Hold your thought. Let's do a break. I didn't want to be that guy, but I got
to.
But we're gonna get back.
We gotta get to our break.
So you
can get some of the delicious Fuji water, and I can get this delicious sun kiss.
F-I-J-I. It's Fiji, not Fuji. Fiji.
Oh, sorry.
We might disagree. Brian and John, Andrew and Robert, be right back.
Why should you bring your vehicle to Quick Lane at Roberts Motors? You never need an appointment, just drive on in. Quick Lane has the guaranteed lowest tire prices around. Plus, we perform a multi-point inspection of the critical items on your vehicle at no charge every time you visit. Ford, Chevy, Toyota, or any other make, Quick Lane can service it. We're even open on Saturdays. Stop by Quick Lane at Roberts Motors today. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane.
Heart-pounding excitement is what you will find around every corner with the new Polaris Slingshot. It's like surfing pavement. After just one test drive, you will be ready to ditch the sports car, the Harley, or the sports bike and settle into the hottest thing in the street. With a 2.4-liter GM power plant churning out 173 horsepower, you will feel the adrenaline rush of a lifetime. Come on down to Midwest Motorsports on Route 3 in Hartfield, Illinois. We would love to take you for a ride.
Roku is a small device that connects to your TV for instant streaming over your internet connection. Not only can you watch Netflix, Hulu, and over 600 other channels, you can also stream RBTV straight to your television. Search for RiverBender on Roku.com to subscribe to our free channel.
Let's go places. Not just the ones you can find on a map, but the ones you can find in your heart. Because inspiration doesn't favor those who sit still. It dances with the daring and rewards the courageous with ideas. Ideas that inspire. Ideas that take you places you never imagined. Ideas big enough to make the heart skip a beat. And in some cases, maybe two. Toyota, let's go places.
Okay, welcome back to We Might Disagree with Brian, John, Andrew, and Robert. And we were just getting the fireworks going over Mrs. Clinton and her ability to get her machine running and accomplish all kinds of terroristic goals, and Trump's inability to do great things.
Well,
so
I mean, I think we probably need an entire show to go over all of his bankruptcies. But what I would rather talk about, however, since this is a show about China, is that there's a common misconception among most Americans that somehow China is our next overlord. And the problem with that is people who aren't students of history don't really have a sense for this kind of thing.
Are you saying that your voice is carrying it like this is an undisputable fact, or is this just your opinion?
No. There are lots of people that think that China's going to rule the world. They're
it's out
superpower.
There. Okay, well, they are a superpower.
Well, you're delivering it like it's God speaking.
No. No, in fact, I think it's people who are very misinformed or take that position.
Oh.
So
we've always worried about the billion Chinamen. You've heard, it's been going around for, longer than I've been around.
Right. But for me, first off, you have to understand that China does have somewhat of a fragile economy. We have our own manufacturing issues we have to work through, but you have to understand that they're facing enormous competition from countries like India and Vietnam and other places that are willing to step into the shoes of countries like China and take over a fair amount of the manufacturing. But more importantly than that, we have by far and away the world's strongest military. I mean, if you look at the naval vessels that we have, if you look at the helicopters, planes, all the stuff that we have, the number of people in present military service, all of that stuff.
But 60% of them have been ordered back to Harvard.
Well, I would say this, too, just on the military. I'll put our military against anybody. I'll put our military against the world. I think that highly of it. But you got to have a commander-in-chief that's willing to use it. And we haven't had that. We didn't have that with Bush.
But why do we only have 500,000?
Yeah, he shrunk it down because of the budget. He wants to spend money on other things. I mean, but in all respect, though, I mean, I don't worry about that. I mean, I worry about a leader that's willing to do it. Willing to use that. And I don't want. I mean, war is horrible. War is horrible. So, but
war
anyway,
should be avoided like a plague.
Yeah, it should. I mean, it should be. It's not.
But it has to have.
So I guess what you're saying, John, if Trump pushes on China, how are they going to react?
No, see, I'm not afraid of China's reaction, and I think that China is a momentary placekeeper in history. I think that they are going to be very much like Japan was in the 1990s. Remember when they bought, what's the place where they do the ice skating right outside of Rockefeller Center? Right. They bought Rockefeller Center. People are like, oh my God, the Japanese are buying up everything in America. And then a few years later, their economy completely tanked. I think that China is more likely to go down that road than they are to be some long-lasting, century-old superpower nemesis of the United States. And frankly, China has a lot to offer America, too. It's not necessarily a completely unsymbiotic relationship.
But there's a sidebar to that. when their economy collapses, they're not going to like it.
No, they're not, and I think they're preparing for it.
And they're going to go to war, possibly, to do it. Why, if they're this peace-loving country, why have they illegally created these islands?
I just wrote that down. Just getting ready to go to the islands.
They absolutely said to Obama for 3 years, look, they're just islands. It's disputed. Just because they say it's disputed doesn't mean it's disputed. It's not disputed territory in any way, shape, or form. And no, they're not going to be militarized. Well, guess what? They militarized.
And
we're still doing nothing. And they're just seeing how long it's going to go before we say, boo.
How far can you push us?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And as long as we let them push, they're going to push. I mean, I've heard the same things for 12 years. I lived in Japan for 3 years. I heard the same things in Japan. And their big thing was, oh yes, you whipped us with our stick from World War II till about the 1960s, and now we have the stick and we're beating you with it.
Yeah.
But how'd that turn out for the Japanese?
No, I wrote the paper 2 years. I mean, I got a bad grade on my paper.
As you should.
For about predicting the Japanese collapse. Of their bubble. Their bubble would bust.
Yeah, I worry. I do worry about how China's going to react. It is a concern. Now, I didn't even know about these ghost cities. This is completely new to me. And by the way, folks, I'll have pictures of this up on our Facebook page tonight. So, it's just. If you've got that many people that are, and here's the thing too, and that's the downside to communism, downside to socialism, whatever ism you want to put on it. When people are dependent upon a government for everything, when everything's taken away, it's going to be bad.
What they're doing is saying the people will riot if they don't have a job, so they're creating a job.
But that's going to stop at some point.
No, it's a paradox.
Yeah,
it's going to collapse. But how is China going to respond to the collapse? Are they going to go ahead and take over these islands? I mean, now, for the last 2 years, China has been openly saying that Japan is a renegade province.
Yeah. What I could see China doing is letting North Korea do something to South Korea.
Of course. Where's Trump wrong on his statement, correct statement, I'll use a John term, that China could put a lid on Korea in 1 hour?
Yep.
Stop it all.
They could, and they don't.
But that's not what people are arguing about Trump about. What they're arguing about is what they're arguing about is his comment that he thinks that North Korea should develop its own nuclear weapons, and that's obviously
I don't know why he would say something like that.
I haven't heard that one. Is what he said, or is what they said he said?
That's what he said.
I haven't heard, but I haven't heard. There's other things he said I haven't heard as well, because I don't listen to everything he says.
Yeah.
But
John, you're getting off subject now. You said
no. It is about Trump and China. I mean, because I like what I hear from him on trade, but I didn't really understand what it meant. I think you brought some clarity to that, and then I think, but as we talk about trading and as we get into this, as typically as happens on this show, it opens up another door, another question. So. And we always hear presidential candidates say many, many things that they're never going to do. And obviously for Trump to go in and negotiate trade deals, I mean, he can't just do that alone. I think he would be.
He's got to have a team.
Yeah, he's got to have a team. But I think he'd be good. That's what he does. That's what he does. It'd be like John being a lawyer. I mean, it's what he does.
I get better deals. I'm nobody in the big picture of things, and John, without details, can tell you I get some incredible deals in China. Because I just put my foot down, I say, no.
Yeah. See, and I
had to go to 3 manufacturers to get exactly what I wanted, how I wanted it. Okay?
Right.
And I had to fire 2 manufacturers when they said, well, this is better. Okay, you're fired, goodbye.
And see, that's what I think.
And then they get arrogant. Well, you're not going to stop us from selling it, make it and selling it. I said, that's true. You've stolen all my technology. You're not going to honor the agreement, but you won't be able to sell it in the United States.
Yeah, which is the biggest economy. So
exactly.
And see, that's one of the arguments that I've had for Trump, is I feel like some of his brash talking is to set the stage. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the new guy going in, kind of setting the bar before you take over a new business or something.
Look, we three, if we were off the air, we might be talking to a certain tone.
Right.
That we're going to tone it down if we're on the air. That's the only thing Trump needs to learn to do, is his delivery.
Yeah.
He is who he is. Okay. He is a person who was born before this political correctness nonsense.
Well, I wasn't born before it, and I don't like it.
And
I can still respect all people without being
you can
PC.
respect all people, you know, and things like that. And I'm not going to bring up the story. You know, I have several black friends and things that we've had happen in restaurants that I just, you know, I'll come up with something smart to say, you know, and then all the black people in the restaurant are laughing, and all the white people are like,
freaking out. What did you just do? Yeah. Well, I think, you know, to John's point, there is a fear of China doing something, and I think I mean, China's never made an aggressive move towards us military-wise that I'm aware of, but they are attacking us from the inside out. I mean, they're even involved in the movie business now. They've taken over that. They're even hiring Hollywood producers and directors to come over there and help produce, but I also know that they have to go through a totally different screening process before they come here.
They let billions of dollars, not billions, probably billions, to Taiwan to oversaturate their economy, to force them to completely rejoin, and now they have a leader in Taiwan that says, not anymore.
Yeah,
and as soon as she stood up to them, as soon as she just said, stop the baloney, they're complaining about it, but they're doing nothing about it.
Which is true. Good point. We'll take a break on that. So listen, we might disagree with Brian and John, and special guests Andrew and Robert. Be right back.
Thank you.
Calc Institute of Technology is working for you with career programs for today's jobs. As a career student, you can expect a welcoming atmosphere with exceptional personal service, small classes with one-on-one attention, a set class schedule, and short-term programs that will get you into the workforce quickly. Calc has 2 locations for your convenience, located in both Alton and Fairview Heights. For more information, visit Calc online at www.calc.edu. At Midwest Members Credit Union, you are important. We work hard to ensure you have the best banking experience possible. Whether you are inquiring about opening a savings account or wanting to learn more about a loan, our professionals are here to help you with any questions, and we will walk you through every step of the process. Since opening our doors in 1935, we've never forgotten that our members are our most important asset, which is why we continue to excel.
For all your banking needs, Midwest Members is the one place to go.
Time out. Come here. I need better coverage. Anybody here give me better coverage?
Put me in, coach. I can give you better coverage. Not only can I give you better coverage, I can protect your dreams. Call me, Gerard Fisher, 466-7062.
Hey, where do you want this ladder?
Oh, come on, coach.
Okay, welcome back to We Might Disagree with Brian and John and special guests Andrew and Robert. We're talking China, Trump, trade. We're talking all kinds. I learned about ghost cities. We talked about islands. One thing that, you know, is a concern, probably wasn't a concern of mine 10, 15 years ago, something I'm becoming more and more aware of, pollution. I remember during the Beijing Olympics, it was a big issue, kind of coming off that. You've been to China. John,
Yes.
you've been to China. I've seen it on TV. Andrew, you saw it on TV?
Definitely.
Andrew and I have seen it on TV. Is it real? Is it
Totally.
Totally real, totally bad?
My best story, I can get 2 stories. One night, I was in my 15th floor hotel room, talking back to the United States, giving a report. I happened to look outside, and the streets were completely full of people at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what's going on? I mean, they're like ants. They're covering the streets. So I finished up with what I was talking about, went downstairs, and everybody's doing this. Because normally you don't see stars, sun, nothing.
Really?
The pollution.
That bad?
You don't, I mean, it was the first time in the 5 weeks that I was there on that particular trip that I saw a star. It's one of the very few times I ever saw a star, ever. In very few days do you see the sun.
That's heartbreaking.
I have pictures of my neck completely swollen, like a frog.
Really?
Yeah,
Just
I
from
had to evacuate and go back to a Hong Kong hospital.
No kidding.
Well, I didn't have to, but I went into a Chinese hospital. I said, no.
They don't have the medical technology we got here. Hey, it's free, right?
No, it's not. No, you are evaluated, okay? And they say, okay, this procedure is going to see the doctor is going to cost this much money. You have the money? Don't have the money? Bye-bye.
Wow.
That's their so-called free medical.
Yeah, there's no medical. I know it's bad over there, and I know that, I think the United States, and I think we try to be the leader in everything, and I support that. I do think some of our EPA laws make it very difficult for businesses to get going, and sometimes, but it is
Overwhelmingly.
it is. But there is an upside to it, you know. I mean, but
again, it's like we were talking earlier, that it's not an either or extreme. There's a sweet spot there. There is a point where you can have effective EPA policy that doesn't have a stranglehold on American business, but does provide necessary protections for people. You know, we don't need lead paint. We don't need fumes that are, you know, from China being blown over here to America in terms of pollution, and that's real.
Well, there's not a thing you can do about it.
But there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, you can.
And you never will.
You can put controls on the ability of those countries to export goods until they correct their policies.
So did you just say, without saying it, that when Trump fixes the trade, he's going to fix the pollution problem?
If he stops their trade, will he temporarily stop the pollution problem?
Sure. But is that what he said?
But the problem is, I'm looking for long-term measures, and
I know.
he doesn't have a vision for long-term measures.
I think he does. I think Trump.
Overwhelmingly long-term.
I'm hoping he does. You know what? I mean, I'll tell you this, and I'll say this on here. The first time I saw Barack Obama was on Oprah Winfrey, and it was 2004. I believe it was 2004. I just lost my brother over in Iraq, so I was really starting to get into politics. Really stayed out of politics until then. And I love this guy. I loved him, and I was like, man. I even called my wife and said, Jennifer, you guys see this guy? I love this guy. This guy's amazing, and it got me excited. And then I read his book, and then I was terrified. And he's probably been the most productive president we've had. He's done everything he said he's going to do, just about, except for the gun thing, which he's still pounding away on. I just,
by executive order.
But I will say this with Trump. I know Trump. I mean, I don't know Trump, but I've watched him over the years. He's arrogant. He's got a bad hair situation going on. He does respect women. He does. It's like somebody saying to me that I don't respect women. I have daughters and a wife and a mother. I mean, I have tremendous respect for women.
I'll kill you.
Yeah, well, and I think he's not a racist. I mean, these things are not fair. He uses wrong words. He's got mouth problems, But
he talks like the typical general contractor who works with his crews.
He does. I mean, that's the thing. And you talk to his people.
He happens to be a billionaire, and like I said, he talks like we would talk off the air because we want to be a little more polite, a little bit more correct, not mentioning manufacturers' names, and he hasn't gotten to that. But it's also what's drawn. What is it up to? 7 million new voters to register?
Yeah, I mean he's done that, and right or wrong, it's something to look at. And will he be able to do what he says he's going to do? We talked about the wall. We think it's.
I think it's not feasible.
I don't think it's feasible. I still think it's metaphor. I still think he's just using it.
Well, number one, it is feasible, but if you accidentally cross the border into Mexico, you are arrested, jailed, minimum sentences, huge fines, and their fines are based on how much money they determine your family has based on your income, and they want to see tax returns and everything.
That's called blackmail.
Okay. And so let's say Trump goes, hey, we're going to do the same thing that you're doing.
I think, though, that wouldn't be American to do something like that. I think, to John's point, we should just
I'm not saying you do it.
Enforce the law that we have. What's funny is every time we see these things, it's always, let's go back to the law we have.
Okay.
Just enforce law A.
Okay, but if the illegal immigrants from Mexico were taking the teachers' jobs, the lawyers' jobs, the doctors' jobs, and
they'd be gone.
They'd be gone, right? What they're doing is they're destroying the hotel industry. In St. Louis, the average pay for a good roofer, a Cracker Jack roofer, was $25 an hour because who's going to do it?
Right.
Today it's about 10 or 12.
Yeah, they've cut wages.
I'm not going to do it. Right. I've had illegals come into my store to install our windows and doors, okay, and laugh at me when I say, well, you got to get your insurance, you got to get your green cards, you got to do this and that, all that sort of stuff. And they're quoting me prices for a third of what it would cost me to install the window.
Right.
And actually laughing at me when I say no.
Yeah, and the problem is you've got some competitor out there that's going to do it, and it's going to take that business from you.
Oh, no, believe me, yeah. I mean, there's been some major window companies that have been fined for having them in their factories, but not contractors. It hasn't hit the contractor industry yet, and it needs to hit
No,
the
it
contractor because people are making so much less money.
Well, I think you see it when storms come through. You know what I mean? You see it when storms come through. You see, like when a tornado hit across the river, you saw, a lot of people that, and I don't know if they're legal or illegal. I don't go up and ask them. I don't care.
And there's a lot of fly-by-night companies that
there
prey
is.
upon people in those situations.
I still think that my biggest argument with immigration, and is, when they come in here, we talked a couple weeks ago about immigration, John. And I left this out. I wanted to throw this in on this show, even though it's talking China and trade. It's kind of relevant. When people came in through Ellis Island, they became American citizens at that point. There was a process. They learned things. They became Americans. These people coming in illegal. They're not going to those classes. They're not learning America.
They were technically illegals when they came in because my family, some parts of my family came in that way. Okay, but once they got to the United States, they were quarantined.
Right.
Some of them came to the Viviano macaroni factory up in North St. Louis. They were sent to different places all over the country. And they had a time period that they had to acclimate to our language and everything unless they were old
right.
or mentally disabled in some way. Or they would have, and they did send a lot back to Europe on a forced repatriation of both Italy and other foreign nations. It wasn't an automatic grant to stay.
No, but they did become American, though. They learned English.
Right, they learned the language.
I think
they got no benefits, from the government other than once they became a citizen, they were given a certain amount of money.
Right.
Okay, like in the St. Louis area, they were given a certain amount of money to say, and you can't settle in St. Louis. They only allow like 10%.
Well,
to stay in St. Louis.
What I'm referring to more though is when they come in here that way, there's a goal to become legal,
of course,
and they're taking the steps and following the process to meet that goal. And when doing that, you become an American. You can still have your culture back home with you, and that's fine. I respect that.
Totally.
But that culture doesn't necessarily fit into the American culture.
Right. But we still have a place called the Hill. We have Polish neighborhoods.
Yeah, nothing wrong with those either.
Right.
I love them.
So
I love
you have to be careful when you start talking about, well, these people are they're waving the Mexican flag. You can drive on the hill and see the Italian flag.
Everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere, but they're
Americans. And frankly,
they're legal Americans.
Yeah, but there's in the hills. They're speaking English. They're paying taxes.
Some don't.
There is some that don't. I would probably agree with that. Well, I don't think today's age we enforce much immigration at all. Even legal immigration, it's even lax.
But you said it best. Enforce the laws that we have now. The audacity of cities to say, "Oh, sanctuary cities, come destroy our economy." Because what it really comes down to is they're pandering for votes. If they weren't pandering for votes, the very people Hillary Clinton was saying, they should stay, they should stay, they should stay. You can listen to recording, even 3 years ago, where she said, no, this has to stop. We can't do this. Harry Reid, you just go down the list, and speech after speech after speech on the floor, Senate floor, and now it's like, oh, we never really said that.
We didn't mean that. That's a Clinton selective hearing or selective memory, whatever it's called, right?
Of course.
So back to China.
Yes.
Don't see a lot of people break the laws to come here from China, so that's kind of good, I guess, other than sending all their stuff.
Well, you don't want to break the law in China.
No, it's not the same over there as it is over here.
No, you have no right to be, plead the fifth or anything, and they primarily only arrest guilty people. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about the political nonsense of China.
Right. They do a lot of that.
But I'm talking about the day-to-day crime and stuff like that. But they also don't rely so much on circumstantial evidence and stuff like that. They want the smoking gun evidence. But you have to be a fool to break any law over there, because any law is going to equal jail time, period.
But you do realize when you get there relatively quickly, when you go to open your laptop and search on the internet or look at Facebook, and all of a sudden you're like, where's Facebook? There is no Facebook in China.
Yeah.
So,
well, I've had friends detained because they'll be talking to me on QQ or WeChat or whatever.
Really?
They'll be talking and this and that, and all of a sudden we're cut off.
That's
and
crazy.
Then I find out they've been detained.
Man.
I mean, they never say. See, what the Chinese say is, "Oh, I'm not political," because they don't want to talk politics.
Yeah, they're a pretty brash regime. So in your mind, Trump lays the law down on trade. What happens?
Things are going to really improve for everyone. Okay, all it is he's going to lay down existing law. Because I don't think he's going to get a lot of cooperation on creating any new law.
And that's my problem. Part of my problem with him is that I don't see him working with Congress to try to get something done.
It's not him working with Congress. It's idiots like I call him Nitwit Mitt. And you can go down the line on the Republican side, and of course, no Democrat's going to agree with anything he says because he's not a Democrat. So you have to dismiss. You have to just automatically dismiss that.
But John, you think what? Trump,
I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw with Jimmy Carter, where you have these people from the outside the political system come in, they say they're going to do these great reforms, then they realize, because particularly in Trump's case, that he's a very brash individual and rubs people the wrong way. He doesn't build, he doesn't have a reserve of political capital that are going to make people embrace his political viewpoint and want to work with him.
No, I think he only got the largest number of votes on any Republican.
You think Britain's recent move has anything to do with anything? I mean, I know they're playing it back and forth. I think
there's obviously an anti-immigrant sentimentality that's sweeping across the world.
Yeah.
Particularly in Europe. But if you look at historically, when do we see these spikes of anti-immigrant sentimentality? We have it whenever there is economic hard times.
Yeah.
You see it in the Red Scare of 1919 to 1920s. You have it
today. Oh
it
my
is
gosh,
absolutely.
That's so far-fetched. Oh my gosh, what planet are you on?
Look at the economics. Look at your history. Right in 1950s, you have the Red Scare.
It's called walking into a gay dance club and murdering.
I'm not even talking about
people.
that. I'm not even talking about that, Robert.
You're talking, and if Trump is accused of, he wants to block all immigration. And what he's saying is we have to stop it until we correct the immigration process.
Which is just being responsible. It's just the way he says things.
Exactly.
Well, it's also illegal what he says. What he says cannot be done constitutionally.
No,
we have this thing called the Equal Protection Clause, which means you cannot discreetly pick what groups you are going to allow to immigrate in this country. He says, I'm not going to allow Muslims into this country until we get under control. He doesn't have the legal authority to do it.
Until the departments do their background checks correctly.
So now you're going to teach me constitutional law?
Sure.
All right, so we might disagree, and you're here laughing. So we are at our 1 hour. Thank you, Robert, for coming on. It's
I hope
very
we get to come back.
informative.
This was fun.
I know I learned a lot. I'll get those pictures up of the ghost cities. Andrew, anything for us? You've been great at watching the clock. I appreciate it.
Not really, no.
Not really? You okay?
I enjoyed coming today, really.
We enjoyed having
Listening.
you. He's learning. I don't know if it's good or bad, but he's learning. John, last words, my friend.
Again, thank you, Brian, for being the host and running the board. John, thanks for having us here. And if anybody wants to be a sponsor, like maybe Viviano Windows and Doors or something like that, might want to be a sponsor of our show. I'm not averse to wearing a polo that's got your logo, so just reaching out there to folks.
I almost did, and I said, no.
Typical Democrat
I'm going to be appropriately conservative. Oh, one last word, though. What did we say? John Kennedy, conservative Democrat.
Yeah, that's what I am.
That's me.
That's me.
That's it.
One of my favorite phrases. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be on again next week. We're trying to nail down a set time to do this show.
I'll be in Texas.
He'll be in Texas. John, thank you. Great input again, as always. Thank you, Mr. Producer, for being on time, and all of you out there. Remember, you can go to Facebook.com. We disagree. Facebook, I'm all messed up right now. And then you've got we're iTunes. You can podcast us on there as well. So thank you, everybody. We will see you next week. Lock up your guns. We'll see you later, man. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Heart-pounding excitement is what you will find around every corner with the new Polaris Slingshot. It's like surfing pavement. After just one test drive, you will be ready to ditch the sports car, the Harley, or the sports bike and settle into the hottest thing in the street. With a 2.4-liter GM power plant churning out 173 horsepower, you will feel the adrenaline rush of a lifetime. Come on down to Midwest Motorsports on Route 3 in Hartfield, Illinois. We would love to take you for a ride.